So what's going on? This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, the founder of the highest paid part-time job in the world options trading program. And so what we're really quickly going to talk about is how not to be surplus labor in this economy. And you may be asking, why is this important? Why do I need to listen to this? What I really want to do is help you get an understanding of how you can try to create some type of protection against yourself in this particular economy. And one of the reasons you can do it is first kind of understand what this economy is based on, right? And then from there, we can kind of give you some solutions based on you being having an understanding of how this actual economy is based. And one of the biggest challenges that we have in this world, really in this country, is we're not really given a fundamental analysis of how the actual economy is set up. I grew up in the state of Florida school system. One of the things that the state of Florida school system was really, really good. What's going on at Delhi, what's going on in Preston, is one of the things they taught me, which I really appreciated, was they taught me something we call Florida history. So you learn the history of the state of Florida, right? But what they don't teach, and this is kind of all across the whole country, is they don't really teach economics. So in the state of Florida, you get one semester of economics K through 12, and then you get one semester of civics, or what we call American government K through 12. So you don't even really learn state government or county government. You learn what we call American government, and you get both those classes in your senior year of high school as part of your what we call your graduation track. So as a result, we have a lot of people in this particular economy that don't really understand how the actual economy is set up. And then what we do is we polarize any explanation of the economy to being for or against the way this actual system is set up. So you never get a true understanding without kind of like a judgment being put on it. So either it got to be everything is good in the economy or everything is bad, as opposed to something that's kind of based on what the reality is. One of the things that I'm a proponent of is giving people an understanding of what they're actually in, so they can kind of understand how they need to manage the situation, as opposed to just giving them a particular narrative that just gets me what I want out of the deal, but the person doesn't really understand what they're in. So if I was against this system, I just tell everybody everything negative about it. Or if I'm for it, then I just tell everybody everything good about it, right? And then if I'm against it, I tell you, well, everything that is having bad into you in your life is a byproduct of the system. And then if I'm for it, then I tell you, well, you know what? You can get anything you want to get out of the system. This particular system that we live in is based on surplus labor, right? It's a surplus labor system. Well, why do we need surplus labor? Because that's good for the capitalist. So the capitalist business person, these billionaires that run these big corporations, these capitalists, what used to be capitalist industrialists now, which now are kind of like capitalist technologists, they want surplus labor because what it does is it means that they can push down, right, the cost of labor. When I say the cost of labor, they can push down how much they got to pay people to work. So what happens in a lot of scenarios is that they try to figure out how can we create more people for the job than the job actually needs. So what they want normally is that if we got a particular job and we need 10,000 people to do it, we want 40,000 people to be available to work the job. What does that mean? We can push down the cost of labor because we got 40,000 people to do it. So then now we can have those 40,000 unorganized people negotiate against each other to fill these 10,000 slots. So this is one of the reasons why people historically in this country didn't like people coming into their territory doing a job. So let's say hypothetically, as black people started to migrate out of the South, started going into the northern part of the country, a lot of the labor unions and the workers in those particular areas didn't want black workers. Why? Because black workers would take less money. So what are they doing now? Now you as a laborer in this particular area, you're competing against a black worker from the South who's willing to take less money to work the same job that you're working. So you don't want that competition. So you would try to scare them off the job because you don't want the competition with this new labor pool, which is willing to take less money. So now you have the same issue with a lot of Mexicans coming up from south of the border. They're willing to come into this country and take less money to work. Well, people are saying, well, we have an immigration issue. We don't have an immigration issue. The capitalists want these Mexicans in this world. They want them in this country. Why? Because they want the surplus labor. Mexicans coming from south of the border are surplus labor. They want the surplus labor because what does it allow them to do? They can push labor costs down. So you got to understand is that letting politicians polarize the masses of people over the immigration issue is really a way for them to stay in power, because in reality, the businesses that hire these people want the surplus labor. So if you go to Alabama, you're going to find people picking watermelons that are undocumented, right? Well, why would they hire undocumented people? Because they want to pay people a certain price to pick watermelons. And they understand if I have to hire Americans to pick watermelons, I'm going to have to pay them too much money. So I need Mexicans in Alabama to pick watermelons. I need Mexicans in Clewiston, Florida, picking oranges, right? I need Mexicans all through California picking agriculture there. Why? Because if I got to pay Americans, I got to pay them too much money. So we want the surplus labor. So we have more people now to pick crops, right, than we actually need. So the few people that do pick crops, we can push down their labor cost, right? So you got to understand this, how this particular society is set up. And so what we do is now we tell people, well, hey, go to college and go get an education. The issue is, first, are you getting an education in an area that is going to be very difficult for somebody else to get an education in? So if you're going to school to be a cardiologist, you're going to school to be a physician, but especially you specializing in a particular medical specialty, you're going to school to be an attorney, but you go to a higher tier law school, not just get a law degree. You get to a higher tier law school that can open up doors for you. You get certain professions, right? What they do is they make it difficult for them to create surplus labor. But that's not going to be consistent, because what happens? If they can find those workers from another part of the world and create surplus labor, that's what they do. So what do we find happened over the past decade? Everybody was going to school. They was going into tech, right? Then what do? They started getting tech people from India. Now, India has very rigorous tech programs. They got a school in India that's comparable to like MIT. So they have very rigorous tech programs in India. But what did they find out? We can hire Indians to do tech work for us and pay them less than Americans. So they started getting those, I think it's H-1B1 visas, bringing Indians over here to work. Because what do they want to do in the tech spaces on the West Coast? We want to create surplus labor. We don't want to pay an American $500,000 to work for us. We would rather pay an Indian $250,000 or $125,000 to work for us and still get that same quality of work. Why? Because we've been able to create surplus labor. So this particular cycle goes on and on and on because it's a byproduct of the system that we live in. You can't get around it. So maybe you can move to a certain part of the country, but it doesn't mean that those people that you're working for will not decide to create surplus labor. They can go reach out to some recruiters and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to pay you a certain amount of money to find an extra 500 people to do this particular job because I'm tired of paying the current people this amount of money. So I want to increase the labor pool for this job. So what they're saying is that I want to create surplus labor for this position, which is going to do what's drive down labor cost. So the reason why you see a lot of people trying to protect their position is because they're really worried about becoming surplus labor, right? And then as a result, their labor price, or the price that they charge, or the fee that they attach to their services get pushed down. So this is why you see a lot of unionization. I'm not against organized labor. I'm for organized labor. But organized labor was really designed to protect the workers against having the people that they work for create surplus labor. Because that's what they want to do, because it pushes down labor costs. If you're running a business, one of your highest expenses is always going to be your cost of labor to your particular business. So as you start to scale out and you have to hire more and more people, you're going to now find that your labor costs are going to go up. So one of the ways in which you can get those labor costs to go down is you try to figure out, how can I get a larger pool of people to work for me? Once I get that larger pool of people to work for me, and I'm dealing with a ununionized or unorganized labor force, they now have to compete with each other to get the job, which does what? It pushes the price down. So if you look at Amazon, they're still trying to unionize the Amazon distribution centers and also the delivery platforms. Now, let me tell you a really quick story. Around almost 10 years ago, Amazon did all the delivery through UPS and FedEx. The majority of the delivery went through those particular servers, right? And what they found out is that there was a lot of lag in delivery. So what Bezos decided to do is that we're going to solve that problem. We're going to build out our own delivery logistics platforms. And they started investing a lot of money in doing that. So then what did they start doing? They started creating a shortage in labor for people that wanted to do those type of jobs. So then what does it do? It brings the pay up. Now, Amazon will now, go to a particular area, could create a fulfillment center and start hiring people. They need thousands of people to fill this place out. Then they got to start contracting people to drive for them and provide those type of services. So they create a shortage in these particular areas. So what does it do? It pushes the price up. So it benefits everybody. It benefits the FedEx workers. The UPS workers are already unionized, right? So they good on their end, especially the drivers. They already unionized, so they good on their end. But it benefits everybody because what does it do? It drives the price up because there's less people available to do these jobs because Amazon comes in and puts their footprint down, and now they start driving these workers in. But what is Amazon has let people know, eventually what we're going to do is we're going to automate a lot of these jobs. So then what is that going to do? It's going to create another labor surplus. Because all of these people that are working in those fulfillment centers, that's not what most people would consider skilled labor. They're not tradespeople. They don't have a high-level technical or academic education in a particular area to work in these particular places. Not saying that they don't work hard, not saying that they're not valuable, but the marketplace doesn't see them as skilled labor. So because they don't see them as skilled labor, they don't put a particular price tag on their actual labor. So when Amazon automates all these particular offices, these fulfillment centers, and next thing you know, there's robots doing all these jobs. When they got drones flying around and delivering all these packages, what is that going to do? It's going to flood the market with these people that was currently doing these jobs. And then what is it going to do? It's going to create a surplus of labor. So you got to understand that this cycle goes on and on and on and on, over and over and over again. I was listening to yahoo.com, so we know the unemployment numbers come out every Thursday. And they talked about the fact that America is more productive even though we have less people working in the service sector. So what happened as a result of the pandemic? People left the service sector because you couldn't get those jobs in those particular areas. So, I'm from a part of the country where you got a lot of theme parks. The theme parks literally told people that you're going to get laid off and you probably won't get hired until this time of the year. They told people that in March and April of last year. You're going to get laid off and you're probably not going to get rehired until spring or summer of 2021. So you had all these people working in the theme parks, which primarily are low-skilled jobs, not saying that they're not important, not saying that they provide a very important service to the people in our area because we need people working those theme parks to move people in and out of those parks and to provide services to the people in the parks. So they have an important job, but the particular marketplace, because they see them as unskilled labor, doesn't put a high price tag on what they do. Those people get let out and they get put back into the labor pool. So now what does that do? It creates a surplus of labor for other unskilled positions that these people now try to go into. So people start going to the warehouses. They start going into the retail places. So you got this big glut now of surplus labor. So what does that do now? It pushes the price down now for all the other jobs that are unskilled. So you got to really understand how this particular society works. So what we're dealing with now is that more people moved into production. We're more productive because we got more people in that particular area, but our service area now is not as, there's a loss of jobs in that particular area because people left service because you couldn't get those service jobs because of the pandemic. I know people that was really making a lot of money as bartenders. They couldn't bartend anymore because of the pandemic, so they had to go find something else to do. So when you're dealing with an unskilled labor group, what you'll find is that every few years, whatever is going on in the economy, it moves them from area to area to area. So some of y'all remember back in the day, people was working in these particular, industrialized type jobs, working in automotive places, working in manufacturing, things of that nature. No disrespect to those people, but the marketplace see those people as unskilled labor. Now, they've unionized to try to protect their labor, but the marketplace saw a lot of those people as unskilled labor, and this is the reason why a lot of that manufacturing came down south, where you have less organized labor, and they built manufacturing all in that North Carolina area, all through there. They had a lot of manufacturing there like in the 70s and the 80s. All that manufacturing is gone. So what can happen is you will get a job, and at that particular time, there may be a shortage of labor. So let's say you live in a particular city in North Carolina, and they build a factory to produce something. And they'll tell you, hey, they need jobs in this particular area. We need 1,000 people to work here. We now have a shortage of labor because we need to get these jobs filled. We get these jobs filled, and this particular factory runs for let's say 10 years. Everything's going good. You're making money, yada, yada, yada. You got a house, you got a car. Your whole life is based on this particular job at this factory, right? But you're unskilled labor. Then the job, right, because of, them being a publicly owned company, They want to return more shareholder value. They decide, you know what, it makes more sense for us to move this job to another part of the world, move this manufacturing facility to another part of the world. They do that. They let everybody go. What happens now? Because you are unskilled labor, you're now an unskilled labor in this particular market, and you're trying to find another unskilled labor position. So what does it do now? It creates a surplus of unskilled labor in that particular area. And this happens over and over again on a micro level all across the American economy. So whether you go from city to city to city, and what you'll find in a lot of places is that those unskilled labor people, when they lose that good job or that good position, they never get their foothold back in this economy. They spend the rest of their life struggling to get back to where they was at. So they might have had a run to where I was working this one job and I was making real good money for 6 or 7 years. And if for whatever reason that job no longer existed, and then every job after that, I'm never able to get back to that type of job. And you want to know why they was making that kind of money for 6 or 7 years? Because there was a shortage of labor in that particular area. So maybe they need to move to another area. Maybe they need to move to a whole different state. But the reason why they was able to get that kind of money is because there was a shortage. So you see why these politicians, they get nervous when they find out that, you know what, jobs need people, but they can't get them. Because they're realizing that the people that are overlording over them, the big businesses, the billionaire capitalists, are going to tell them, we need to create surplus labor to get people to take these low-skilled, these unskilled jobs so we can get these positions filled. Because they don't like having given sign-on bonuses to get people to work fast food. I drove by a fast food restaurant close to where I do my shopping at, and they had on the little placard, we do a sign-on bonus. They don't want to give a sign-on bonus for somebody to work fast food, right? They want you to want that job so bad that you're willing to take that little bit of money and deal with all that mess just to get that job. That's how they want the relationship to work. So this is why they're creating this narrative that, well, if you pay people, they won't go to work. That's not the issue. The issue is that they want a surplus of labor because that's how the system works. Now, they're willing to accept shortages of labor in certain areas. But as you see, if they even have a shortage of labor in a high-level specialty, right, whether it be tech, whether it be medicine, yada, 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 the United States government will issue out visas to import people from other parts of the world to create a surplus in labor. Because what the United States doesn't want, they don't want cardiologists making $2 million a year. They cool with a cardiologist making $300 an hour. But they don't want it to be such a shortage of cardiologists to where if you get hired as a cardiologist, you're making $2 million a year. So they accept people that have a background in cardiology from other parts of the world. So you may go to a cardiologist and the person that you're dealing with may not even be an American-born person. The same thing if you go to a neurologist. The same thing if you go to somebody that has a background in another medical specialty. Why? Because we don't want it to be a shortage in those particular positions, because then what? We got to pay people such a high amount just to work those particular positions. And what is that going to do? That's going to skew the profit that these particular businesses come in. So when you're looking at these corporately managed healthcare facilities, they don't want a shortage in labor. They want it to be more people that can do the job than there actually are going to be positions. So I want you to understand this is the actual process that's going to go on over and over again in our particular economy. Michelle, you're right. Oh, create funding programs for college students. And so that's what you got to understand is that they will tell you we have a shortage in these particular jobs. It's not that we got a shortage to where we don't think the jobs can be done. It's that we have a shortage to where we're going to end up paying the people that are currently in the job too much money to do the job. They rarely have a scenario where, we can't get the job done because we don't have enough people. Because you know what? If they put enough of a price tag on that job, somebody will come do that job. So if you got a city way out in the middle of nowhere, and they say, hey, man, we need a lead anesthesiologist. We can't get nobody to work this job. They go hire an executive headhunter or an executive recruiter, and they say, hey, you know what? She go on LinkedIn, she reach out to people, and she say, you got a background in being an anesthesiologist. I think because of your expertise and your resume, your time, your track record, you'll be a good fit for this position. This position is going to pay you 80% more than what you're currently making. That person will move there. But they don't want to pay. So what they do is they go lobby to the politicians. How can we use the taxpayer to create initiatives to expand the pool of people to do these jobs? So this is what I want you to understand how this particular society works, right? It's about creating surpluses of labor for these corporations so they can keep the cost of labor down. That's their whole goal, because that's how they make more money at the end of the day, because in most businesses, your largest expense is going to always be labor. So now how does that relate to you, right? Because we pretty much broke it down. You want to try to figure out how you can never be put in a surplus labor position. How can I put myself in a position to where they can't expand the amount of people that can do what I do, and as a result, that takes money away from me? Because you'll find in almost every position, they have a way of expanding, whether they create funding programs for college students, they start importing people from other parts of the world. If you're working for somebody else, it is in the benefit of the people that own that business, or it's in the benefit of the shareholders to always drive down labor cost, because that's going to be always one of the largest overheads for a business. So it's not even personal. It's what they have to do, because that CEO of that company has a fiduciary responsibility to shareholders, right? You also got to pay his bondholders. You also got to pay off his senior debt. So he's trying to figure out, how can I cut overhead costs to make the business more profitable, so I can, one, pay out, make sure my equity owners are straight, pay out my senior debt, and also pay out my bondholders. So it's not personal. It's the process. It's the system that we're in. It's going to always create this particular dialectic, because it's a byproduct of the system. So one of the reasons why I'm passionate about the market is because they can't create a surplus in labor of traders. So they can't say, well, you know what? We want to minimize the amount of money that traders make. Let's go recruit 10,000 traders from India. India got their own robust stock market, right? I know a guy that sells courses. People don't even know that. Like, the same amount of people on YouTube selling courses and doing stock-based content on YouTube for an American audience, you got that same thing in India, right? Because India has a very robust market. They got a very mature capital market. The New York Stock Exchange is not going to say, you know what, traders making too much money. They're pulling too much money out of this market. Let's go find 10,000 traders from India, bring them to the United States, and let's create a surplus of labor traders. Why? Because traders don't need to work for somebody to make money. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? You don't have to be employed by these particular institutions to make money. Now, people may say, well, you know what? That's why you need to start a business. You can have a change in the economy that can change the viability of your business. So just because you have your own business and you may be serving a particular market with a service or a particular product, it doesn't mean that the macroeconomic situation can't change and make that particular business less valuable. And I'm not anti-business, I'm pro-business, but things can happen. And we saw this with the pandemic. People that were in business as a result of the pandemic, because they started creating, ordinances and things of that nature, sheltering ordinances, some of those people lost the ability to function in their business. You can still go on your computer and still get money out of the market during the whole pandemic. Nothing changed, because the market was going to run even if everybody had to operate on a computer inside their house. Because the first thing they did when that pandemic started, as the market started to sell off, before they worried about the economy, before they worried about health initiatives, before they worried about rental initiatives, before they worried about any of that, the first thing they did was they went in and they saved the market. Federal Reserve said, we're going to add this amount of liquidity to the market. We're going to buy this amount of bonds every month. We're going to buy this amount of treasuries every month. We're going to make sure that the market stays liquid and the actual public has confidence in the market. That's the first thing they did. Then once they got the market straight, then they went and addressed these other issues in the mainstream economy. So one of the reasons why I'm really passionate about teaching people about trading is because they cannot create a surplus to take money away from you as a trader. Because if you don't trade the New York Stock Exchange, you can go trade the futures, or you can go trade Forex, right? You can go trade cryptocurrency, right? So you got to understand is that there's going to always, if you're working for somebody, it benefits the people that you work for to create a surplus. And it doesn't matter what you go to school for. And I'm not telling you that you should not go to school and become highly skilled. You should. That's how you're going to make the most money. But this economy is based on creating a surplus of labor. That's how it's based on. So you got to understand is that that's what they're going to do. So one of the reasons why I want to teach you how to get your money out of the financial markets is because they can't do that to you. Because you can sit on your home on a computer or on your mobile phone and get money out of the financial markets. And there's so much capital in the financial markets, it doesn't matter, right, how much money you take out of the market, because you're never going to impair the market. You can pull $500 million out of the market this year. and nobody would notice because of the amount of capital in the market. And in reality, the money that you're putting in the market is beneficial to the market because it's making the market bigger because you're creating more liquidity. When you work for somebody, you're taking money out of there, and they have to hope that your productivity offsets what you take out. When you go into the financial markets, the majority of people are not going to always take out more than what they put in, and even if they do, the amount of money that they put in, it created so much liquidity, it's going to always multiply what they take out. So we want more people in the financial markets than less people, right? We're not worried about, we don't want less people, we want more people, because what it does is it continues to expand the size of the market, creates more liquidity. Everybody's not going to do what it's going to take to be successful, and so they're just going to add a lot of liquidity to the market. Let me give you an example. Market makers are making a ridiculous amount of money selling options to people on AMC and GameStop. They want that thing to go on as long as possible. These people have no idea what's going on, and they think they're hurting these particular firms. These firms want this to go on. Why? Because people keep buying options contracts, and I showed this to people in my particular options trading course. We looked at the AMC options chain. I said they're just going to make these people wealthy by buying all these options. So as long as they can keep this thing going and keep selling people those weeklies, they're going to keep selling those weeklies. Why? Because you're making them money. They don't want less people in AMC. They want more people in AMC. It's making them money. They're not going to go to the SEC and say, hey, you know what? We want to get retail out of AMC, or we want to get retail out of GME. They want more people in that deal. Why? Because they make more money that way. The more volume churns on these particular tickers, they make more money that way. So the more people we can get in this space, the more money we're going to make. You understand me? So having more people doesn't hurt them because they want more people. In a lot of areas of work, having more people having the ability to do a particular job, it hurts the profitability of that particular model. So they want to look for is to get rid of people. You understand me? Right? I'm sorry. They want to look to expand people. So the more people they have, right, the more profitable they are. So they want to look to expand it as opposed to, trying to contract it to make it less people. So that's pretty much what I want to talk about, is that the way to really not be surplus labor in this economy, because I don't want to ramble, is to try to figure out how to develop a skill set for yourself that allows you to make money regardless of how many people in a particular area. So one of the reasons why I'm passionate about the market is that once you understand how to trade, you can make money in the market regardless of how many other people in the market. I used to do videography. One of the biggest challenges of videography is that everybody did videography. Everybody was running around with a camera talking about they take pictures and they do videos. So it became hard to differentiate yourself in the market because we had a surplus of people doing videography, right? And I was a business owner, but I had a surplus of people in my particular local area doing videography. If you become a trader, having a million other people trading doesn't hurt anything, right? It doesn't hurt you because there's so much capital in the market that it doesn't matter how much money you pull out of the market, it's never going to create a downturn in the market, and the market will never be less profitable as a result of you entering in the market and you having a success story. We talked about before. The money that we call money in the market is not real money to these people. So we looked at BlackRock last quarter. They put out like $19 million profit out of the market, right? We were out here talking about thousands of dollars and millions of dollars. They did 19 billion profit over a 90-day period. So we don't really understand what money is. So that's why I want you to never fear that I can go into the market and make so much money that they're going to like put a pin on me, or they're going to start looking at me a certain kind of way. They're not paying no attention to you because you're never going to make enough money. I wouldn't say never, but it's very unlikely you're going to hit a certain amount of money that would even get their attention based on the kind of numbers that people are getting out of this market. You understand me? JP Morgan, I believe, said they want their trading desk to do $100 million a day. When we're talking about success stories in the market, we're not talking about people doing $100 million a day. So this is why I'm really passionate about getting that money out of the market, because it can allow you to get the money out of the market to allow you to do what you want to do with your life, and you don't have a boss or an HR person or a person, an accountant somewhere looking at the amount of money you're making and say, well, this person makes too much money. We got to get them out of here. Or they built up too much in benefits that's going to cost our company too much money. We got to get them out of here. I keep telling you, you can put you together a little group. Y'all could pull $100 million out of the market this year, and nobody's going to notice it. Nobody will notice it because of how much money is in the actual market. We're just talking about the New York Stock Exchange. We're not talking about the futures market. We're not talking about Forex. We're not talking about commodities. We're not talking about Bitcoin. You understand me? There's so much liquidity in these markets to where you can be so successful in these areas that can change your life. And it's not going to threaten the actual model of the market. Where in other areas of life, your success becomes a threat. And then what they do is they start to create initiatives to shut you down. And so we want to really reconsider telling our people to keep going into these areas where your success becomes a threat to these people. Where you can literally go on a job and become so good at the job where they start trying to figure out how to get you off the job. We don't tell people that when we tell them to go to school to get these educations. So you can be working a job and you got to kind of watch how good you are at it. Because you can get so good, they be like, they too good at the job. Let's try to create a narrative to get them out of here, right? Or you could be working somewhere and you making so much money, right? They try to figure out how to get you off the job because you're making too much money. Or you can hit a ceiling of how much money you make. Or they can decide that, you know what, we're paying this group of people too much money. Let's start recruiting new people into this particular area. So let me give you a real quick story. I used to work in healthcare. We had a radiology group. They have been working there for years. They were starting to make a lot of money. You know what they went and did? They went and recruited a whole bunch of young radiologists out of college and brought them in there. Why? So they could push them people out because they was paying them too much. So even though these was highly skilled people, they had experience, they had a resume. Once they hit a certain amount of money, we want to expand this particular pool of people, bring in a bunch of younger people that's not going to demand this money and push this other group out. And this happens over and over and over and over and over and over again. So I want you to understand that. Not against you becoming skilled, not against you learning skills are going to drive a high amount of income, but I want you to understand the system that you work in, and you may need to pick up multiple skill sets to navigate this system properly. So if you want to learn more about the highest paid part-time job in the world, if you're watching this on the replay, the link will be in the description. I got the $497 course, which is going to be straight to video course with 1 hour of consulting. Somebody asked me, do you need to know something about the market to take the course? I would encourage you to have a basic understanding of the stock market, but your perception of knowing something about the market is not going to be equivalent to mine and where I'm trying to take you, where I'm trying to take you in this particular journey, right? So I want you to have a very astute understanding about the market. We also got the VIP, and you'll get that if you stick with the curriculum. So you may not come in knowing that, but you'll get that. Then we got the VIP course that is at a $2K price point. People may say that's a lot of money. It's not a lot of money when you start to understand the amount of money that's in that market. You've been made to believe that $2K up front is a lot of money because of your conditioning, right? But it's way less than the cost of college. And most people are in debt to college and struggling to make $45,000, $50,000 a year, right? So those are the two particular offers that I have for you. I want to tell you to look at those offers, but really determine what you want out of life and how what I can offer to you can help you get it. Share, like, subscribe. If you know somebody that can get value from this, tell them about it. This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, and I'll talk to you later.